Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this channel. My name is Zubair Charles, and I am an English home language teacher. I've been teaching for the past 5 years. I've also had the privilege and the experience of marking poetry. This was last year at the end of 2021 at the NCS Marking Center for English Home Language Paper 2. So I hope with that process, I can share some of the things that I've learned with you guys watching this video series. As I've stated before, my main aim and goal of this channel is to share the skills that I've learned through teaching poetry with you guys watching, all the grade 12 learners across South Africa. If you guys are perhaps having difficulty understanding poetry, and more importantly, if you're having difficulty answering the questions in your paper 2 exam, then I hope you're going to learn a lot from this video series, as well as if there are teachers out there watching, whether you are novice or experienced. I hope that you too can learn from this video series and use some of the methodologies that I use within this lesson with your classroom. Lastly, I'd like to mention again that I'm completing my master's degree in creative writing at the University of Cape Town. And with that, I'd like to take the opportunity to do a little bit of self-promotion with regards to my non-fiction essays. Please check the description box below and take the time to read some of my essays. That after you've watched this video, I've also shared the link to my Instagram profile where you can find some of my own personal poetry that I write. So I hope you guys will check that out. So as always, I'm going to begin this video, this poetry lesson, with introductory questions. This we call probing questions. And with regards to educational theories, to our teachers out there who are watching, it's highly important to link learners' prior knowledge, the everyday knowledge, with the content knowledge that you are going to present in the lesson. What do I mean by prior knowledge? We as teachers must not assume that when learners enter our classroom, they enter our classrooms without any knowledge. Right? Learners got, as I've said, and they have acquired everyday knowledge. Right? So within the communities, when they interact with various people, or when they interact with their parents or various loved ones or siblings, or even from social media, and through reading and checking out Google and all of those things, learners acquire knowledge, right? And it is then that we build onto that through scaffolding, and we add on the content knowledge from the lesson, right? So on that note, I've got two introductory questions for all those watching. So learners, after I ask this question, I want you to perhaps pause the video and discuss these introductory questions, or think about it. Um, like I said, think about it or discuss with a parent or a loved one, or you can even answer some of the questions below in the comment section. So, firstly, I'd like to know, why do you think it's important, right? Or why should people remember their loved ones after they have died? And when I refer to loved ones, I'm referring to romantic partners. Right? And then on that same note, I want us to flip the question around, and then I want to ask, so why do you think it's also important to forget the loved ones, right? Our romantic partners after they have died. So say for instance, it's create a scenario and you and this person have been in a relationship for a long time, or you've been married, right? And unfortunately that person dies, because as we know, death is inevitable, right? So why do you think it's important to forget that person? So the poem that we are going to cover in the series is called Remember, and the poet is Christina Rossetti. So we're going to look at the context of this poem. Right? I usually don't provide context, or I don't usually go over the biographical information of a poet. I usually jump straight into the poetry. But I think unless it's important, which I feel is important, and I think for this poem specifically, the context of of the poem is important. So I'm just going to go over a few points, right? Or go through a few points. So firstly, in the history of the United Kingdom, the Victorian era. So, guys, we are going to look at the Victorian era. And why was it called the Victorian era? Because it refers to the period of Queen Victoria's reign, right? And she was the queen in the United Kingdom from the 20th of June 1837 until her death on the 22nd of January 1902. So, with regards to the context of this poem, we are going to be looking at women in the Victorian society. So, women in the Victorian society had one main role in life, and that was to marry and take part in their husband's interest and business affairs, right? So, but before we speak about marriage, right, women during that time, during the Victorian era, they had to learn housewife skills such as weaving, cooking, washing, and cleaning. However, if those women were wealthy and fortunate enough, they didn't have to do those domestic tasks because they would have maids that would primarily take care of those household chores. Right? So we're going to look at education with regards to women in the Victorian era. So typically, women were not allowed to be educated in the sense of gaining knowledge outside of their home or domestic things. So, because in the Victorian society was a man's world, which I think is kind of ironic, even though Queen Victoria was in reign, and it was called the Victorian era. But nonetheless, the rights and privileges of women were limited, and both single and married women had to live with hardships and disadvantages. Why? Because Victorian women were disadvantaged both financially and sexually because they had to endure inequalities within their marriages and overall within society. As we know that women were not seen as equal to men, and during that time, men were given more stability, financial status, and power over their homes than women were. Okay, guys, let's continue. So now we're going to look at the actual poem. So remember me when I am gone away, gone far away into the silent land, when you can no more hold me by the hand, nor I half turn to go, yet turning stay. Remember me when no more day by day you tell me of our future that you planned. Only remember me. You understand it will be late to counsel then or pray. Yet if you should forget me for a while and afterwards remember, do not grieve. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of thoughts that once I had, better by far you should forget and smile than that you should remember and be sad. So, the title of this poem, Remember, the repetition of the word remember highlights the speaker's desire to obviously be remembered after the death of after her death, sorry, as she as she fears that she will be forgotten. Right? So that's kind of obvious. I'm sure you guys would have picked that up. And initially, she wants to be in her loved one's memory constantly. But later on throughout the poem, we learn that she wants to be remembered only if it does not cause her loved one's pain or this particular loved one's pain. So, summary of the poem. So, Christina's Rossetti's Remember is a poem about grief, told not from the perspective of the person who's going to. Sorry, it's supposed to be told from the perspective of the person who's going to die. Okay, so guys, I just want to exit quickly. Told from the perspective, right? Because the speaker is going to die in the poem. In the sonnet, the speaker begs a loved one to remember her after her death, but also not to feel guilty if he forgets her. Right? So I think that's a selfless thing to do. Right? Wanting your loved one to only remember, sorry, wanting your loved one to remember you after death, but only if it, but not, sorry guys, I'm getting tongue twisted, but also not to feel guilty if he forgets her, so long as she's made a permanent mark on his life, and he remains happy. The speaker is realistic as she accepts that her beloved may in fact forget about her. Okay, sorry guys, my reading was very rocky there. Okay, nonetheless, let's continue. So, what does it mean when the speaker states, "Remember me when I am gone away, gone far away into the silent land"? So, at the beginning of the poem, the speaker states that her lover must remember her after she dies, right? And remember in line 1 and 2, you see gone away and it's again repeated, gone far away, right? So the use of gone away, the repetition of gone away establishes the idea that the speaker will no longer be with her beloved. However, in line 2, there's the added adjective gone far away, which refers to the finality of death of the speaker. Right? So, in these lines, the poet creates a melancholic, somber, or sorrowful mood for the reader in anticipation of her impending death. So, remember, we don't say sad. You guys are in grade 12, so you're going to say melancholic, somber, or sorrowful. And mood refers to how do the lines in the poem make you feel. Okay. So, in this context, when the speaker refers to silent land, she uses it as a symbol the for death, but also for the afterlife, right? So you say, okay, I'm going to heaven, but here she says the silent land. So, what is the speaker's state of mind here in these lines? So, we know that the speaker is fearful because um, death to her is a mysterious place. She does not know what to expect. And we can see that by the use of the diction of silent land. Like I said, she didn't say, "Oh, when I'm going to heaven," but she says silent land. So I think that's kind of a weird way to um, interpret where you're going to go after you're done. Okay. When you can no more hold me by the hand, alliteration. Why is it alliteration? The H and the H sound. Okay. The repetition of the hard H sound emphasizes the speaker's demanding tone. So it's hold by the hand. It's the h for hold and the h for hand, right? So remember, the speaker didn't say when you can no longer take me by the palm of my hand, for example, or take me by my fingers. She said hold and she said hand. So for alliteration, why did the speaker use this repetition of the hard H sound, right? Because she's demanding, right? She's being forceful, okay? The speaker is telling a beloved still to remember her, even when he can no longer hold her hand. And the use of alliteration is effective as it reveals the speaker's desperation in wanting to be remembered. Um, as it reveals the speaker's desperation in wanting to be remembered of his loved one. Guys, I'm just getting confused here. I just want to see why is it his here. So let me just read it one more time. And the use of the alliteration is effective as it reveals the speaker's desperation in wanting to be remembered. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be by her loved one. Okay, so sorry for that. Nor a half turn to go, yet turning to stay. Now, this is a very interesting line because how do you half turn and then how do you want to go yet want to stay, right? So that's quite tricky. So just think about it. You half turn, so you're turning, you want to go but you don't want to go, right? So she also refers to turning and going yet staying. So that's quite tricky. So check the picture out there. Yes or no, should I stay or should I go, right? Here the reader is aware that the speaker has not accepted her impending death yet, right? So she obviously, I don't think anybody would want to die, or even though it is inevitable, unless you're in severe pain. However, so she's kind of conflicted here in these lines. She wants to go, yet she wants to stay as well. Right? The image signifies that the speaker is stuck between turning towards death and wanting to stay alive, right? So half turn. So she wants to accept that she's dying, but she wants to stay, right? So she's like in between, perhaps in limbo, if you want to look at it like that. She knows that she is going to die, yet tries to prolong her life for as long as possible. The image is significant as the speaker is determined to turn toward life in order to remain with the beloved for as long as she can. So for now, guys, the speaker has not accepted a death yet. Okay, remember me when no more, day by day, you tell me of our future that you planned. Here the reader is made aware that the speaker and a beloved had plans for the future. We presume marriage, right, or other milestones in their life. And here she uses the pronoun our, so our future suggests that there is intimacy within the relationship, right? She doesn't say my future, she says our future, right? So they're kind of interconnected here. As the speaker's death will result in the couple, in the couple. Sorry, guys, if I stop in between, but I'm only human to make mistakes, so I highly apologize. Okay, where did I stop now? Okay, so the terms our future suggests that there is intimacy within the relationship, as the speaker's death will result in the couple no longer having a future. However, the terms you planned reveals that the speaker's beloved could have been controlling as he planned out the speaker's future he speaks at her. So it's kind of a bit of a contradiction here because she says our future, right? However, the man planned the future. So think about that. Think about what we went over with regards to the context of the Victorian era and the Victorian society. We know that women were not given equal rights and that women basically only lived to be married to men, to serve men, right? And that men and women were not equal in society. So here's an example of that, right? Because she says, even though it's the future that they plan, even though she considered to be their future, but she says you plan. So unfortunately, the man did all the planning of their future. Right? Okay. And then she says, only remember me, you understand, it will be too late to counsel then or pray. So the speakers reminded to her loved one that a time will come when he could not be able to counsel her. So when you think of counsel, you think of a counselor, and what do you do at a counselor? You get some guidance or advice, right? So that she's saying, only remember me, you understand, it will be too late to counsel then or pray. What does she mean by that? So the speaker is reminding her loved one that there will come a time when he won't be able to counsel her any longer. He won't be able to offer her advice. He won't be able to offer her guidance, and he also won't be able to pray for her. So now we are reaching line 9, and this refers, so after this line we're going to reach line 9, and there's going to be a shift in the tone and message of the poem. So guys, what I want to do is I just want to go back a few lines, a few slides, sorry, and then I want us to look at the structure of the poem. So this poem consists of 14 lines, so we know that it is an Elizabethan sonnet. Right? Perhaps I should do this, guys. So remember, is an, guys, I'm talking my own nonsense now. I wanted to write, I'm saying Elizabethan, but I mean to say Italian sonnet. Right? It's not a Shakespearean sonnet, it's an Italian sonnet. Okay. Okay, let's just see if this pen is going to work. Okay, so just like a teacher, made a mistake now, and I said it is an Italian sonnet, right? So how do I know it's Italian and not Elizabethan? Because we need to look at the rhyme scheme. So, okay, we look at line number 1. So we're going to look at the end word. Okay, the last word in every line. Okay, so away would be A. We're looking at the rhyme scheme, guys. Land is B. Okay, hand is B because it rhymes with land, and stay rhymes with away, so it is another A. Day rhymes with stay, so that is another A. Planned rhymes with hand, so that's another B. Understand rhymes with planned and hand and land, so that's another B. And pray rhymes with stay and stay and away, so that's A. Okay, then when we get to line 8, which I'll cover now when we go back to our PowerPoint, right? Just going to do that here, and I'm going to write Walter. Okay, and we will continue with our rhyme scheme. So while would be C, grieve would be D, leave would be D, had will be E, smile would rhyme with while, and sad would rhyme with had. So the conventions of Italian sonnet would be that the rhyme scheme will always be A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, and then we have C, D, E in the last, I believe it's 6 lines, yes? So in the last 6 lines, you have C, D, E, the rhyme scheme, but that C, D, E can be in any form, okay? It can be in any order, right? So, okay, so I spoke about a Walter there. So I just want to do this quickly. So line 1 to 8, we call our octave. I just hope I can, sorry guys, I feel like I'm messing here with crayon and I'm in grade R, so forgive me for my handwriting. Octave, and the last 6 lines we call the sestet. Okay. Okay. So in our octave, lines 1 to 8, we have one idea, which is remember. Just going to do that. Right? And in our sestet, we have another idea, which is forget me. Okay? And Walter, what is that? Walter just means shift, right? Meaning after line 8, the tone and the message and the idea of the poem will shift and swap around. Okay, guys? I'm just going to go back to line 8. So that was line 8 over here, right? It will be late to counsel, then play line 8, and then, so like I said, there's a shift in tone and message of the poem. So this is not an Elizabethan sonnet, right? I made that mistake earlier. This poem is written as an Italian sonnet, right? In other words, the shift of the poem does not happen in the rhyming couplet like it would in the Shakespearean or Elizabethan sonnet in line 13. It now happens in line 9, and this is called a volta. A volta in an Italian sonnet refers to a turn or a shift, right, in the speaker's argument. So let's see now. So remember, she spoke about remember. Now she's going to speak about forget, forget, and forget. And why is she going to do that? Let's find out. So the speaker says, yet if you should forget me for a while and afterwards remember, do not grieve. Okay, so the word yet, right? So the word yet already indicates the shift, suggests that the speaker is changing her attitude after emphasizing how important it is to her that she should be remembered. Lines 1 to 8. It occurs to her that it is more important to her that her loved one should be happy. So she's saying, okay, she said remember, 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 but what if he remembers, remembers, and remembers, and what if he becomes depressed or sad? So she's like, oh, wait, let me just take a step back. Let me shift what I'm saying. Let me shift my message, right? So she becomes more resigned to the idea that his memories of her should eventually fade. So we know that after somebody dies, that we kind of forget about that person, although we shouldn't, right? But the memories kind of fade, and although that person's not with us any longer, right, we will forget about them, right, because they're not a part of our everyday life. Okay, so from now, lines 9 to 14, the speaker will focus on why a beloved must forget her. For if the darkness and corruption leave a vestige of thoughts that once I had. So the word darkness suggests death and the unknown, right? Remember, the speaker is going to die, and it conveys the speaker's fear of death and the sense of ominous melancholy. Ominous means something bad is going to happen, and melancholy means sadness that the passing might bring. The word corruption in this context refers to the dreadful and physical effects of an illness, right? And sorry, I don't know why it's like this. The word corruption refers to the dreadful physical effects of the illness which may alter the body. So the corruption should refer to the corruption on a body, right? The effects of the illness. It also refers to the decay after the body, after the death, of the body after the death. So the speaker would rather have a beloved forget her, as the speaker is concerned that if he sees the harsh changes her illness will have on her physicality, on her body, so she says, okay, she doesn't want him to remember her and all the pain she was in and the darkness and corruption, right? So she doesn't want him to remember all the physical effects from the illness that she has. Okay? Therefore, she wants him to rather forget her. So, and then we move on. The term vestige refers to something left over or something like a reminder. Okay? So, say for example, you go on a cute date and you guys maybe at pizza, and now you save the receipt from that date, right, as a memory, right, that you call a vestige. It's a reminder of something, okay? So in this case, it refers to the things that the speaker once thought and said that her beloved might still recall after she dies. So the vestiges in this example refers to the thoughts and the sayings that she once had, okay? And the term vestige is effective because, right, the speaker repeats the importance of remembering her lover after the death, right? So the vestige fits in with into the context of the poem. Why? Vestige is a reminder, and the poem is called Remember. Better by far you should forget and smile. So how? And then she says, better by far you should forget and smile than you should remember and be sad. So how do you forget and remember and smile and be sad at the same time? Look at the picture, it's kind of confusing. What is the speaker saying here? Let's check it out. So the speaker concludes the poem by revealing that remembering her might bring her loved one's sadness, and her beloved could therefore not go on to have a happy life. So she's saying, okay, so I'm telling you to remember me the whole time, but what if you do remember me so much that you can't move on with your life and it's going to cause you so much grief? So no, let me rather take back my words. And then instead, he should allow his memories of her to fade in order for him to move on and live a happy life. So remember I said it's a bit confusing. Better by far you should forget and smile than you should remember and be sad. Rather forget about me and be happy than to remember me and be sad. Okay, excuse me guys. So the poem has 14 lines and it is written as an Italian sonnet. This is evident by the set rhyme scheme followed of A, B, B, A, B, B, A, C, D, C, D, sorry, C, D, D, E, C, E. An Italian sonnet is divided into an octave. What is an octave? The first 8 lines in the poem, and the sestet, the last 6 lines. So the octave represents one idea, the sestet represents an opposite idea. What are the contrasting ideas in the poem? The octave describes the lover's absence and what life would be like without the other person. The tone of the lines 1 to 8 was adamant and contemplative. However, we know that in line 9 there's a Walter, a shift in the speaker's tone and the message. How do we know that? Because line 9 starts with yet. But also we know with the conventions to um, the Italian sonnet, right, that line 9 will be a shift in the tone and the message of the poem. So we know from line 9 to 14, the speaker states that instead of having memories, right, the beloved should forget and rather move on with life. The tone in lines 9 to 14 is, one of acceptance. So the format of an Italian sonnet supports the development of the different tones in the poem. Theme, central idea, and central message. The speaker wants her lover to be happy and continue to live a fulfilled life after she has died, and not for him to be melancholic when she remembers her. Um, the central idea of this poem is acceptance within death, as the speaker herself learns to accept that her beloved will move on after her death, and she furthermore wants her beloved to accept her death as well. As I was speaking, guys, I just had I kind of remembered something. So, oftentimes I would see learners they write remember instead of remember. So that's just something silly that I remembered. So, guys, don't forget that. Just remember how to spell remember. Okay. Nonetheless, thanks for watching this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you understand this poem better. Let me rather stop on Christina Rossetti's face, right? So let us also remember Christina Rossetti. So let's stop just here. So, like I said, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to comment, right? If there's anything that you've learned or there's any comment that you would like to make or something that you'd like to tell me, please leave it in the comment section. I would love to hear from you guys. As always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so that you can get updated all the time on the various videos on the poetry for the syllabus of English, home language. And lastly, don't forget to share this video. It's very important that you share it with as many grade 12s out there as possible. Okay, so guys, I will see you in part 2 of the series in which we will go over the remember questions and answers, um, exam question and answers, and specifically how to answer the questions in your exam. And in part 3, we would look at the remember poetry literature essay. So bye guys, thanks once again for watching. I'll see you guys soon.